Are you trying to let me know that you're too craven to defend yourself? Then it means you are such a nothing, a feeble namby-pamby who doesn't deserve any respect.
You yourself are feeble.
Emma cried in self-defense, running out of the room.
How dare you talking to me like that? What did you say? Ask for forgiveness. Come back!
Clifford fiercely shouted, jumping up from his sofa.
But the girl was already gone. At that moment, she wished to never return to her home. Home. Could that abusive family place be called that way?
Chapter 23. The Fugitive. September 1988.
In a week and a half after the occurrences described in the previous chapter, the Pfeiffers visited the Smiths. William behaved like nothing special happened, following the instructions received from his parents and grandmother. Emily accepted the rules of the game and forgave the boy. The main reason for it was that her heart wanted a normal relationship with her beloved cousin, not the pushing of the adults to do so.
At school, a couple of incidents took place those days.
During a break between lessons, one of the bullies from the class form, Clayton Tomtit, tried to pull an exercise book from Emma's bag. When she didn't let him to, he torn away a bow from the girl's belt. She was wearing it with her school uniform dress. And then, some of his buddies started throwing that thing to one another, when Emily was approaching to pick it up. Clay belonged to the team of those toads, who hated anyone outranking him in any sphere of life. Thus, it was not just an innocent joke.
Don't mind them, my beautiful Miss Wondersmith. There is no sense in wasting your precious attention on those pitiful jerks. They are ordinary rowdies, full of envy. You can ignore them. It's what they are worth.
Laura Wheaton, Emma's girlfriend from the Quarry Village, with whom they were sharing the same desk at the language and literature lessons, cheered her up. However, Clayton appeared to be evil enough to go even further. After the studies were over for the day, Tomtit instigated two other boys, from a different grade, to kick Emily down from the stairs leading from the second floor to the exit outdoor. Though the girl had her arms and knees skinned, the happy hee-hawing of her affronters did hurt her much more.
Returning home, Emma told her father about the troubles, hoping for emotional support from Cliff. What a hopeless idea.
Instead of making any attempts to protect or comfort his daughter, as any normal dad would do, the men scornfully snorted.
If they acted so, you had to go back and fight with those guys. What you must do tomorrow is to find those boys and beat them up badly.
But I'm a girl, not a man of muscle. I don't have that much strength, compared to them. The jerks would only hurt me even much more than they already did, and then they will keep laughing. Isn't it predictable?
Are you trying to let me know that you're too craven to defend yourself? Then it means you are such a nothing, a feeble namby-pamby who doesn't deserve any respect.
You yourself are feeble.
Emma cried in self-defense, running out of the room.
How dare you talking to me like that? What did you say? I will beat that boldness out of you right away. Ask for forgiveness. Come back. I will skin you.
Clifford fiercely shouted, jumping up from his sofa.
But the girl was already gone. At that moment, she wished to never return to her home. Home. Could that abusive family place be called that way? As they say, it's not about how large the house is. It's about how happy the home is.
There was never any closeness between Emily and the people who gave her birth.
Her father. He just did not behave like her dad, far too often.
There were days when Clifford's demeanor seemed more balanced, performing just a calm before the storm. Any moment, the man's predictable but sudden attacks, emotional and also physical, could follow. Notwithstanding, in a company of his friends, Mr. Smith's favorite occupation was bragging and boasting what a great and responsible individual and loving husband and father he was.
What can be said about Emily's mother?
Most of all, she was focused on avoiding her husband's nasty overreactions towards her own direction. If, to protect herself, she saw an opportunity to forward his overwhelming anger to their daughter, she did it, enthusiastically. Hundreds of times. From the years when Emma was a preschool kid, the nightmare that stayed in her memories forever was Clifford's homecoming from his work, in the evenings. Beth was, traditionally, meeting him mouthful of plaintive complaints on what was wrong with their child, what the baby did wrong during the day. Plus some imaginary facts, to make her words sounding even more dramatic. And then, the further scenes normally followed, where Cliff, with the enjoyment of a sadist, expressed in his ferocious glances, kept on humiliating and cruelly punishing his crying, vulnerable little daughter. How could that kind of caring and loving parents be perceived by the child? Having married as a 19-year-old to her fiancé, 4 years older, who, after the wedding, seemed to be like an opposite kind of person to what she thought she espoused, Bethany could definitely be called a victim. Nevertheless, she found points to adjust to her position, and, moreover, to enjoy the role, underlining, in front of her friends and acquaintances when Cliff couldn't hear her talks, what a poor woman, while what a perfect mother and wife, she was. Typical scenarios of Emily's mother behavior were such, where Beth kept enjoying badmouthing about their daughter in front of Clifford, when she thought the girl couldn't hear it. And savoring complaining about her husband in front of Emma. Both shows were being performed under the slogans, "How bad our daughter is, hence what a poor victim I am." To run it in the presence of Cliff. And, "How bad your father is, so that what a destitute victim I am." To run it in Emily's presence.
Not that Emma ever made any efforts at all to catch Bethany on her disgusting double game. Miss Smith considered eavesdropping an unworthy business she wouldn't do, but a number of times, the girl had chances to make sure in it accidentally. For example, returning from school earlier than expected and hearing her parents talk in the kitchen, which was adjoining the corridor with the door, where Emily had to enter the house.
Another Beth's habit was to create some imaginary stories, wherein her daughter would look silly, and then tell that slander to whomever of the village citizens she met. It must seem to her as a funny entertainment. When those people were retelling Emma the nonsense, which Bethany kept spreading about her, and the girl asked her mom why was she willing to embarrass and get her daughter in trouble that way, the reply that followed wasn't unique or unpredictable.
"We adults know better what we can or cannot do. How dare you are to admonish me, your mother, the woman who gave birth to you, and have been raising you."
Cliff and Beth's policy was the following. If they're giving Emily food and home, for that, they could feel free to torture her, in any way they could think about. And the girls still had to treat them back with full respect, seeing the highest authority in them, silently and unreservedly accepting any of their instructions or wishes.
No matter how hard, since early ages of her life, Emma kept trying to be the best child for her mom and dad. For some reason, in their eyes, she wasn't ever good enough to be cherished.
Whether the girl was tirelessly cooking, cleaning, working in the garden and yard, taking care of her brother since he was born, being the best student at school, etc., her parents would always think of causes to treat her with offense and accusations, in some imaginary sense.
They were regularly coming up with toweling, abuse, and cuffs. Then, they angrily nagged, when their girl closed her heart and soul to them, finding no other possibility to survive in the company of such a remarkable family.
What an unthankful, complicated kid. We're feeding her, giving her home, raising her, and expecting she would appreciate it. But in reply to our kindness and generosity, that tiresome jackanapes dares to argue against our methods.
She must be too little and stupid to understand that whatever the adults do and say to her is all for her own good.
Their mouths tirelessly complained, making the synchronous chorus.
Emma went to the meadow, near the lake.
In the forest, adjoining to it, last winter, Emily and Billy made a small hut of dry corn stems, taken from the Gottfried's garden, facing the shore. The cousins couldn't find any smarter idea than pulling those heavy bunches of stalks, along the icy coast, to the place of destination, leaving a deep row and footprints in the snow. Thus, it was easy for Nick's parents to identify where their stuff was gone if they wanted to take it back. Which they didn't do, as the construction was still there, in woods.
No one knew where exactly the hut was located, other than its builders. Thereby, the girl could be sure that she will not be found, at least for the nearest few hours. She pondered of her father's latest speech.
How could he call her craven? For what reason? That she didn't fight with bullies, who were much stronger than she was, physically? To make them mad, so that they would kill her instead of just hurt, on those stairs at school? Was it a wise dad's advice? Was it a strong, adult man's reaction? Wasn't he supposed to protect and support his daughter, in the situation, instead of making her feel even further down? Was it that he just didn't bother of his own child, or he, himself, was too scared to deal with a couple of pitiful, evil lads? Who of them two, the daughter or the father, showed themselves as feeble and cowardly? Who of them two did not deserve to be respected?
The black apron of Emma's school uniform soaked in the rain of her tears, unstoppably pouring from the girl's eyes to her laps. The ultimate despair in her soul didn't decrease though.
It was when she realized how the inner suffering can be much more hurtful than physical pain.
Unjust.
The girl cried.
If my family does not love me, why do I love them? Why don't I ever deserve their favor? Why is it useless to try to please? Why am I always the one who has to be abused and accused in some imaginary things existing only in their heads?
What was Miss Smith going to do? Was there any sense to return to the dwelling that everyone, but she, considered her home?
Should I leave these lands forever, walking away right now, along the shore? Should I become a fugitive?
Emma's mind was trying to work out a plan.
I would be picking some fruit, edible plants, berries, and mushrooms, in woods, for food, until winter. And then, as an option, I could find a monastery, and be a monk, spending the rest of my hopeless being in a closed cell. Or, even better, I could stop eating, or drinking anything, ever anymore, to let myself die in this forest.
Then, the girl imagined how her mother and father would, probably, suffer and cry till the end of their lives, if she did so. She felt pity and compassion for Beth and Cliff. Emily loved her parents dearly, no matter what. She no way wanted to cause any pain for them, although they were hurting her, to the point where it felt that she could not survive it. As the dissonance to her sorrowful thoughts, someone's merry and inspiring song, sounding from the road near the meadow, attracted Emma's attention.
Everything will be wonderful in your life. Don't let your heart and soul cry. Stand up, cheer up, it's not too late. Make sure to create your happy fate.
How amazing! Who is singing over there?
The girl was curious to check it out. Wiping her tears away, with the drier part of the apron, she ran to the spot over the hills, from where it was possible to observe the space to identify the source of the melody. There was a slender young woman, slowly walking down the path leading to the beach.
Hi. What a beauteous voice you have.
Emma exclaimed, approaching her closer.
The lady stopped. She took her sunglasses off and removed the long red curls falling over her forehead. Those red hair locks. And kind, radiant green glimmers.
It was someone Emily already knew.
Thank you very much for your compliment, you, sad little angel, with the eyes similar to mine.
The young woman smiled.
Wait. You're the person who helped me wash the silver paint away from my face skin years ago. Do you remember me?
Of course, I do. I recognized you from the first sight, despite you grew up that much. And I would love to hear how you're doing. Do you have a few minutes? It's only about 2:30 in the afternoon. Let's go for a sunbathing set.
The lady suggested.
This fall, September bestowed us with such sunny weather. So we shouldn't miss enjoying it, shouldn't we?
She winked, tenderly embracing Emma's shoulders.
By the way, I just realized we never introduced ourselves to each other, despite we met in the past. My name is Emily Smith.
I'm Thea Adams. Feel free to call me Thea.
Ms. Adams took a throw out of her large beach sack and made a place for them to sit near the lake, surrounded by sand and wild olive trees, which already were generously covered with ripe, silver-color, tart sweet berries. The lady hugged Emily.
Hey, it's enough talking about just me.
She continued.
To tell the truth, I noticed your face looks like you used to cry a few minutes ago. But I hesitated to question about it earlier. Are you willing to open your soul to a friend? And how did you get the bad knee? Was that the reason for your tears?
No.
What worries you?
The worst wound is in my heart.
Why?
Because, you see, I am an alien in my own family. The society where I live considers me as a nerd and strange. Whatever I do, even if I succeed to fulfill it better than anyone else, perceived as not good enough by my own parents. If I feel happy for some reason, they'll make sure to kill that happiness. If I feel down, they will make things much worse. The closest people who are supposed to be the best emotional supporters are only willing to keep bringing me down instead.
Good Lord.
Thea sighed in deep empathy, trying to hide the tear on her cheek with the brim of her black and white stripy sun hat.
For most people, their family is the source of inner power and protection. Mine is a killing collapsar. Communication with my parents is always such a stress. It's like a heavy burden I have to carry over my life. I never felt I really had a family. Instead, there was a kind of a coalition of enemies unfriendly to me. The worst thing is that everlasting negativity in the environment constantly sucks the live energy out. Being suppressed, humiliated, and beaten since being a baby, how is it possible to survive? You know. I was trying hard to be as forgiving, gentle, and soft to my parents as I could. Most of the times in reply to their assaults. That was resulting just in them getting more aggressive and bold, seeing my softness. But lately, I got so fed up with it. I disagree to silently stand their abuses anymore. Some individuals, who aren't my biological relatives, treat me 1,000,000 times better than my mother and father.
Humans are truly cruel sometimes, even so-called friends, relatives, and family. Moreover, I found out that treating people genuinely nice often leads to disappointment when they just don't bother to treat you back the same way.
So true. Similar to you, I can swear in front of God. I always have only best intentions, execute any kind of work to my full potential, and treat everyone fairly and kindly if they don't try to hit me.
You're an angel. But unfortunately, angels do not survive on the earth. That's a tragic verity.
Don't they?
Pure souls need more perfect world. The one where their kindness wouldn't be seen as weakness. Where their brightness wouldn't trigger so much envy. where their sincerity and open heart wouldn't be considered as an invitation to push them down and take advantage of them. You need to learn how to protect yourself, my little knight of the light. You have to fight the darkness.
I cherish your support. You can hardly overestimate what it means to me.
Let me guess. Along with people willing to disappoint you for being beyond ordinary, there also are many individuals who adore you immensely.
You're right. For instance, my classmate Lorraine calls me no other ways than beautiful Miss Wondersmith. Visiting her home a few weeks ago, I noticed that the wall at her desk covered with my photos, all together with pictures of some movie stars and other celebrities. It was a surprise. Other than Laura? Craig, a friend of mine, believes that I can do some things which others can't, as if by enchantment. Though, he probably overstates my abilities a little bit. Then, my grandma Melly. She loves me, for sure. Yet, our school teacher of language and literature, Mr. Anthony Thunder, always admires with my writing, treating me as one of his most favorite students. He gave me the different vision of myself. Mr. Thunder, the person of unique talents, charisma, great wisdom, and intelligence, is being that beam of sunshine in the blackness, so invaluable that it wouldn't be possible for me to survive without his inspiring and cheering words. He is also an artist. The other day, the teacher announced,
I've made Miss Emily's portrait by oil. Not olive oil, and not sunflower oil, as some pupils may think.
He smiled.
I did it with special oil paints. If Miss Smith would ever wish to see the picture, I will let her have a look at it.
There are as well a few other humans who can see in my behavior and works the high qualities. Invisible for my parents, most relatives, and envious imbeciles like those who skin my arms and knee at the school stairs earlier today.
The woman and the girl kept chatting about their lives until the dusk. It was time for Ms. Adams to leave for Maryland.
I adore you,
She whispered, giving Emma the goodbye hug. After the touching farewells with the red-haired lady, Miss Smith stayed near the coast for a little longer, watching the waves washing their footmarks away from the sandy shore. A crowd of local kids arrived at the meadow, running around and happily laughing, adding positive vibes to the atmosphere. The meeting with Ms. Adams felt to Emily like a great reveal. The universe, the Lord, heard her and supported. She was not alone in this world.
I'm not gonna end my life on that. No way. I'm not gonna be a fugitive. I'm not going to let the circumstances destroy me.
Emma promised in front of the heavens, feeling stronger than ever before. As it was her lot that she had to go through the frustrations, disillusionment, privations, failures, and obstacles on her way to succeed, she will be strong enough to survive them, never giving up.
Hardships occur to build a person's character. The world is perfect, with all its imperfections.
Indigo Diaries, Book 1. God's Food combines a childhood memoir with a deeper look at the world around us and the supernatural miracles we take for granted. There's more to this world than we can imagine, if we but open our minds. Enjoy being drawn into this amusing and mysterious adventure that will remind you of the time when you were kids and teenagers yourselves. Pick up your copy today.